Hi, I'm Yinka, and this is The Hurt Locker, a podcast where we open a door into men's mental health. Coming up,
There's comedy and then there's life. There's two different worlds.
it's funny you should say that because I think when we first recorded and that, I think you were in a dark place.
Yeah, I am really still, to be honest. Like I feel kind of locked by my story. I want to do stuff that's completely different.
There's a lot of censorship occurring now.
Oh, hugely, massively. Those are the things that you can't say anymore. You've got to like dance around.
You're listening to The Hurt Locker, the podcast that opens the door on men's mental health. And back for a rerun is Kev Mud. Kev, welcome back. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. I just went into my local there to use the Wi-Fi, and it was way too busy, so I've come out in my car. But I'd already ordered a Diet Coke, so
Not a problem. It's I think the last episode went out of our recordings around October time, wasn't it?
yeah, about then.
It was. So how have things been since then?
To be honest, yeah, I mean, the comedies, there's comedy and then there's life. There's two different worlds, two different experiences. Comedy has been going well. Played at Glastonbury on the main comedy stage this year.
How was that?
It was good, yeah. It was mental because alongside like Taskmaster and, Basil Brush and James Acaster and, so that's all good. That was, that's a good sign. But in terms of life, I'm just kind of in limbo at the moment, kind of waiting for operations and reparations from a bad car crash that I was in, which is...
It's funny you should say that because I think when we first recorded and that, I think you were in a dark place.
Yeah, I am really still, to be honest. But I've now got my future planned, but I can't really do anything now until... my physical issues get sorted, which have all basically started because of the car crash. So, and I'm just waiting. And I know things take time, and it's like, it's two solicitors trying to talk to each other and insurance companies and all this. But at the end of it is kind of me just kind of stuck. I mean, I'm on crutches and stuff now. Not permanently, but just every so often my back throws out. So, that makes things difficult. It means I have to cancel gigs. Like I couldn't get to Boomtown, for example. I was booked to play at Boomtown. I couldn't do that. I've always wanted to play there. But I know where my future lies. So
that's good. That's a positive.
Yeah.
So you've been on tour. What's the tour called? Was it Sex Biscuit?
Yeah, Homeless Sex Biscuit. Yeah, Homeless Sex Biscuit.
What was the idea behind the title?
So I was in the semi-final of Cornish Comedian of the Year. They said to me, "Why don't you make it through to the semi-final?" I was like, "No way." I said, "Wait a minute, how many people are in it?" They said there's 8 people in each semi-final, so 16. I said, "How many Cornish comedians are there?" They said about 14. So it wasn't really like it was good, but I was like, what you're really saying rather than congratulations is, do I know 2 more comedians? But yeah, like I got through, and it was an audience vote, and what they do when they do an audience vote a lot of the time, because it's just predominantly white men talking into a microphone, we kind of all blur into one generally, although it wasn't down here. There's females in it as well. But one of the things they do when they're doing the marking is they give the audience room to put some notes so they remember who's who. And they're well aware as well that some of these comments will get passed on to the comedians. They won't pass on the nasty ones. There's always some people that want to stick the boot in. But other people got like very, really sweet, nice lady with the ukulele, like funny Welshman or whatever. And I just got Homeless Sex Biscuit. That's what someone had written down. So at that point, I was like, right, well, there's the show title. That's where we are.
Title, indeed. And how's it going, though, the tour?
It's going well, yeah. So basically, when I first started talking about homelessness on stage, when I used to talk about homelessness full stop, I felt like I was giving this heavy, dark rock to people. Like they would take it on, but you could see the weight of it as they held it. It was quite, I knew I'd given them something they had to then deal with. But when I started doing comedy and started telling jokes about all of these subjects, about homelessness, flowers kind of grew on the dark rocks. So it was still heavy, but you could look at it a lot more. And it showed, you know, people kind of stared at, you know, it became a nicer thing to be able to do, and you both looked at it together. And I thought, how can I do that with other subjects, you know? So then I thought, well, I'll see if I can get people to laugh at my first suicide attempt. So I did, and it's gone well. The only place that's gone badly, well, there's two places it went badly, to be honest with you. One was Bristol, which is where my back threw out halfway through the set, and I was in unbelievable agony and forgot everything I was doing. And that was actually where I was watched by the person that booked me for Glastonbury, but luckily enough, she had enough confidence in me, in what she saw before my back went, that I got the booking. I was unaware of this at the time anyway, but and then the other one was in Peterborough, and that was weird doing it there because it was in a pub which was dead opposite the train station where the attempt took place, and it was the first time a lot of my family came to see me, and they were obviously aware of things that had happened. So it stopped me kind of dancing around the subject as much as I'd like to. You know, I felt a little bit, not that they had done it, it was nothing to do with them, but my knowledge of knowing, looking out that there's certain people here that were mentioned in certain, like, sort of suicide notes and things, and it became a whole different beast. But that was one that I could learn from at least now. Like, so what I've decided now is to make it more theatrical. I've taken a bit of time away, and when I first started doing comedy, I remember sitting bolt upright in bed, like during the Cornish Comedian of the Year final. So like gig number 4 or 5, I sat bolt upright in bed and was just like, my set doesn't work. It doesn't work because I hadn't done 10 minutes before. I'd done 5 minutes, I had to do 10 minutes. So it doesn't work. So I came up with the idea that morning of how to do a different 10. But because I couldn't remember it, I'd only came up with it that day. I decided to use props. So I went down to my mate's shop down here, and he sells surfboards, got a big cardboard box, got a big bit of cardboard that says how to be a comedian on the front of it, got a big pen from a novelty shop down at the seaside around the corner, and decided to do like a tick list thing on stage, you know, do a bit of crowd work. Okay, what's your name? Dave? You like Dave? That's the crowd work done, tick, like just stupid little things. The show's gone really well, and it's been really well received. I've actually got work out of it. I'm now working with Exeter University, their suicide prevention team and stuff, and that, you know,
brilliant
stuff like that. But like, I'm now taking it back into the props. I got rid of the props because I had one trip on London Underground doing comedy gigs, and I was like, I can't be asked carrying any of this stuff around. One of the great things about being a comedian is all you need is yourself. Just turn up, talk, and leave. So the fact I was adding props to it, but I'm doing that. But my next show is prop heavy, and I'm really excited about it because I like Homeless Sex Biscuit. I like the story. I like that it helps people. I like that people find it funny. They don't see it as some sort of depressing TED talk. They really like it. Like last time I did it was in Exeter. I got a standing ovation. I wasn't allowed to leave. Like, it went really, really well. But it feels like I'm getting my story out the way. Like, rather than, I don't feel free with it. Like, I feel kind of locked by my story. Because it's kind of a bit of a mad one, really. So I feel like I'm kind of getting it out the way rather than, like, you know, so I want to do stuff that's completely different. And I think people always say to me when they find out I'm a comedian is, you can't say anything these days. And I think there's some truth in that, but it's not the way that they say. Like, if I wanted to go on stage, I'm not this sort of person, but if I wanted to go on stage and be anti-trans, anti-gay, anti-woman, slightly racist, to a certain level, that'd be accepted on stage. But the problems, which I don't want to do, but that would be accepted. The problems that I find when I'm on stage is talking about the royals or kind of elites or coming out as like a socialist. And those are the things that cause me trouble. Those are the things that you can't say anymore. You've got to like dance around. So I thought, right, what if you can't get on telly, like I've spoken to people like Frankie Boyle, Josie Long, Alexei Sayle, you know, I've been very lucky to be able to talk to these people. And the consensus generally is, I'm not saying any of these individually said it, I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth, but talking about all these people, Nish Kumar, you know, like they're all being moved away from telly. It's harder for those acts to get onto telly these days because of their political opinion. So I think it's gone the other way. I think that it's harder to be left wing on telly. So I thought, let's do a show that is very, 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 very left wing, overshoots the mark completely. Let's get a traditional type of TV show and make it massively left wing. So I've come up with Red Peter instead of Blue Peter, doing like a full on communist kind of, here's one I made earlier, and it's just bits of pipe bomb and fully going all the completely overshooting the mark the other way. So I'm really looking forward to that now.
Do you feel that I'm inferring by what you said that there's a lot of censorship occurring now?
Oh, hugely, massively, in a big way. I mean, there's that you got it on kind of two fronts. You got the public, and I'm a progressive, but sometimes it's like, guys, what on earth are you doing? I remember Ari Shaffir did a joke about, is it Caitlyn Jenner?
Go on.
Previously Bruce Jenner, now I'm sure I've got the name on it. It's Caitlyn Jenner, isn't it? But they did a joke about Caitlyn Jenner and got booed for it being anti-trans, and it's really not. The joke was, people say Caitlyn Jenner's not brave, but I think she's very brave taking a pay cut like that. Like, that's a pro equal pay, it's a very progressive joke. Ari Shaffir has said some things that aren't, but that one particularly is. And he got booed for it. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you booing that? Like,
why do you think people are?
Because I think it's because we're at a simmering point. We're at a simmering point at the moment. Everyone's worried, and like, saying stuff in public is risky. Like, if the wrong person says things and has people backing them up, it's the way you get people to back you up, and people worry that other people will follow suit. I mean, we are being ran by an American president who is only in that position, and and is got a load of masked kind of armed militia going around throwing South American looking people in the back of vans with no warrant or anything, sending them to detention centers. Like, this horrible situation we're in, because he's someone who knows how to tell a joke. Like, it does give you power, and people are worried that people misuse this power. But on the other hand, you have all these people, there's definitely a leaning towards, like, away from kind of, I think it's since Corbyn came in and people started to realize just how much of a movement there is on the left for radical social change. And there's a lot of people, I think, at the top of the media that want the status quo, that rely on the status quo, and they will shout it down from the rooftops completely and utterly. And BBC constantly always gets accused by the right of being left-wing. They're really left-wing, this, that, and the other. Well, I mean, we haven't had a properly left-wing government for decades. So if they are left-wing, they're not very good at it, because we haven't had one, so pointless. But you look at it and it's just like, Nigel Farage has stopped going on TV as much now. It's not because there's been a decision made that stopped giving him airtime. It's because Richard Tice has taken his place. You get all these people on there all the time. Zara Sultana has made this new party. All of a sudden, she can't buy airtime. Greta Thunberg, she was all over the place talking about the environment. Now she's talking about capitalism and financial structures. All of a sudden, she's not on TV anymore. You have all of these things all the time. I mean, I get, there's occasions where I'll say a joke about Israel's foreign policy. And people are like, people who I know are on my side because I've said certain things early on in the show will back off because they're like, oh, it's dangerous. It's really not. Like, I don't do anything that's dangerous.
Why is it dangerous?
I don't know. People I think they're just told what trigger words are and stuff. All the joke is it's really hard writing a joke on Israel-Palestine. I did see a good joke online the other day about Israel, but I can't say that because I'm not the sort of guy to see something that someone else is and pretend it's mine. Like, that's based in, like, foreign policy and things that Israeli, like, and it's not Jewish, it's not even Zionist. It's based on literal Israeli foreign policy that has been said and voted on. And, and it's been done for years, like illegal settlements and stuff. We know it's been there for years. Me mentioning that's what I think people should be doing on stage. I'm not doing people down who don't, but I am a bit sick of hearing about Tinder. Like, I don't care. I really don't care. If it's a well-written joke, it's a well-written joke. But in terms of the subject, it doesn't grab me. There's so much going on in the world at the moment. People should talk about it. And I do feel like as soon as you do start talking about things, people fold back. The main one that I get booed for, and it's never like, boo. There's one that I do which has had a proper boo, which was 3 types of spaniels. All jokes, obviously, on mine, nothing to do with the podcast. But there's 3 types of spaniels that I can identify. If it's got short hair, it's a Cocker Spaniel. If it's got long hair, it's a Springer Spaniel. And if it kills its wife, it's a King Charles Spaniel. Now, that is based in a lot of conspiracy theories, a lot of stuff that went on. No one in the UK can say they haven't heard rumour of stuff or thought stuff. But at the same time as well, that joke isn't going to bring down the monarchy. Like it's a big fat hairy like semi-homeless guy standing up in a pub saying that. If I said it to one or two people, they'd laugh. But because I said it to an audience, occasionally it switches. That is very much. I mean, I got that reaction because I was performing right next to a military base. But I should have thought it through. But
yes,
but still, it's never the ones. When I talk about the homeless, people will laugh with it, and I want them to, so it's good. When I talk about my suicide attempt, people will laugh with it. When I talk about being overweight, people will laugh with it. As soon as I start mentioning power, people start making sums in their head about whether they can laugh or not. And for me, that is just completely crazy, because that should be the one that I should be, that should be easy, and it should be the homelessness and the overweight and the suicide that I should be pussyfooting around and trying to make sure that I'm dancing properly and finding good entry into it. But it's the other way around, because people in my mind have been programmed to know that self-deprecation is good, but attacking anyone in power is troublesome. And I think that's the interesting thing with all this, which is what I'm going to try and tackle with this Red Peter thing.
When do you think the last time was we had a proper socialist government?
The last time we had a possibility of one was John Smith, before he died, 1996, 97. So that was a possibility then.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 90. Was it 95 or 94? Anyway, we can bet to differ.
Yeah, just before Blair came in.
It's funny you should mention that, because have you seen the BBC documentary? I think it's The Rise and Fall of Murdoch.
No, I haven't seen that. I've seen it advertised, actually.
Okay, well, it's interesting because he has a calling of all his executives to come to this island from all over the world. All these executives come, and I kid you not.
They like going to islands, don't they, these guys?
Well, yeah. Well, let's not go there. I kid you not. I said I wouldn't be surprised if Alistair Campbell and Tony Blair are there attending this meeting. And no word of a lie, the next frame was them two landing and walking to it.
Yeah, Tony Blair's...
What told me, what that said to me straight away was, if John Smith had been alive, he'd never have attended that.
No chance.
Never, ever.
No chance. And the Tony Blair is also, I think he's godfather to Murdoch's son as well.
Yeah.
That was done in Israel. Was it Israel or Jordan? But it was down in that area where they had the thing, and it's just like you've got a British Prime Minister and an Australian magnate doing a ceremony for their child in an area of the Middle East, which is like constantly at war because of the meddling of Western governments and stuff. It's like, it's just there, plain to see. The whole thing, it's just like, and I remember, I like, as he's a comedian, but it just his wording and stuff is unbelievable. George Carlin, he's got some amazing like pieces and stuff on this. And I remember him saying that you don't need to, with a conspiracy, you don't need a big room with a light and kind of some like Dr. Strangelove kind of scenario from Ultimate. All you need is for interest to converge. And when you have people who are in charge of countries and people who are in charge of media, and you have things like war and austerity and measures like that, which create money for the mega rich, they don't need to sit down and have a meeting. You just need someone to do to act in a certain way, and everyone else to follow. And that's kind of what you've been seeing for years with all of this. I mean, the fact that we've now got a Labour government at the moment, which is, you got the online safety bill. Wikipedia just lost the other day in the high courts in the UK the right to be able to stay anonymous when you make an edit. So that means that if you were to put something up about Benjamin Netanyahu, for example, or Donald Trump, you have to have your name, and they can track who you are, who's saying these things.
Wow.
Like that's a Labour government that's put that in. That's a Labour government that is fighting against anonymity on Wikipedia. But there's only one reason for that. And Wikipedia isn't a thing that's on. If you had sort of talk to someone in the street and say what the main issues at the moment they need tackling, not one person would mention the anonymity of editing on Wikipedia. It's not causing a problem at all. It self-polices. It's a charity. But you're getting all this kind of stuff come through. You got, the attacks on the elderly. You got the stuff happening in Gaza and all that sort of stuff. And this is a supposedly left-wing government. As soon as I say that, I'm a fan of Corbyn, and for all of, he's got a few faults. but he's the only one that I've ever had in my lifetime that I feel like I could properly vote for out of the major parties. And again, that immediately makes me some sort of pariah. I feel like I need to give some sort of excuse when I'm on stage all the time. It's an interesting thing. But the other element of it as well is that because of the lack of money in the younger generations, the ages that you're having in comedy audiences, unless you're in London or one of the main big cities, London, Manchester, Liverpool sort of thing, the ages are massive, are so much older. I'm performing in front of old people all the time who have got certain opinions and stuff of things like socialism and, you know, aren't as open-minded in that regard. So that's also an interesting thing. I'm noticing a lot of people, their material that they're doing online is very different to the material they do on stage, because the material they do online is to a completely different demographic. They can be pro and anti this and that, whereas on stage you just can't do it, you know. Like, I'm not even meant to, like you say about Alistair Campbell, his daughter Grace Campbell's a comedian, and like, it's fair enough. It's nothing to do with the daughter. You know, the daughter hasn't got blood on her hands, you know, with all this sort of stuff. And I know it's her dad, but there's a lot of people in the industry as well who talk about these sorts of things. And it's like, you have to talk about it behind closed doors. But I think, you know, one of the big things is I don't think Grace Campbell should be utilizing her dad's notoriety to get onto things like Celebrity Gogglebox. She's sitting on Celebrity Gogglebox with her dad. It's like, I don't want to sit and watch. When I'm watching Gogglebox, I'm watching that because I want to forget about stuff. I don't want to be the guy that's popped up that's got, you know, many of us rightly, in my mind, believe that, you know, he's got the blood of millions of Iraqis on his hands. But again, me saying that makes me the bad guy. It's like, if you look at this entire scenario, how on earth am I the bad guy in a conversation regarding Alistair Campbell? How on earth am I the bad guy in the conversation regarding the monarchy? How on earth am I the bad guy in a conversation regarding Gaza? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But we're in this kind of thing where what our opinions and things we say in public should be policed in certain ways.
Yeah, it's massive over surveillance.
Huge.
And I've got, you know, for me as well, I'll say this: I am happy for free speech. I'm happy to wear what people think and feel. Yeah. Because if it's out there, then it's out there, you know, and you can stand by what you say and why you say it, and you can give a rationale for saying what you say. But then when you have all these keyboard warriors, or people might be sitting in a cafe and you can hear people talking about Palestine and say, I've heard some scary shit of friends when they're telling me that they're sitting next to people who were talking about the Palestinians would be bombed out and all that. And I'm thinking, why? Where's the humanity in all of this?
Yeah.
Where is the humanity? You know, I'm not as political as you or politically aware as what you are, but I'm a human being at the end of the day. And we can't just sit around and say that what's going on here is okay.
Yes, it's outrageous. Like, I was down in, I'm not actually going to give the location away, but I was down in a cafe in Cornwall near a cliff. And there was I looked outside, there was a woman crying, a young lady. We've become good friends now, but she was crying because someone had nicked her phone firstly, but also she was part of a now prescribed terror organization.
Oh, yeah,
and she'd sprayed a building with red chalk, which would come off in the rain. And she's now facing 8 years in prison, and it's something like £20,000 or £30,000 for like damages and all this sort of stuff, all trumped up. And it's like she's doing that because she doesn't want to keep seeing videos of dead babies on her phone. Do you know what I mean? And this is a situation where I'm sitting around trying to write jokes. You know what I mean? And I've got this stuff's going on all around. And it becomes quite difficult to write these things sometimes. I think, like, you've got to, like, am I meant to go on stage and not talk about it? I just pretend it's not happening, you know? And I know promoters don't want it necessarily. They want an easy ride. They want people just to laugh, you know? And they want, you know, once you start doing comedy, you realize, you know, if you've got certain level of ability, it's quite Pavlovian. You can just deliver certain sentences in a certain way after you've got a bit of momentum picked up and people will continue to laugh. You don't have to touch these subjects. You can just talk about, you know, isn't it weird? You know, trees, they come from a seed. They used to be small, now they're big. Like, you can just do some absolute banal, like, stuff. But what's the point of being on stage with a microphone? You know, I don't understand at that point. Like, I feel like if I don't say it, Like Glastonbury was an interesting one this year. So at Glastonbury, we got a letter that was sent out that we weren't allowed to hold, that we all had to look at, which came out straight after the Bob Dylan thing, which said that we shouldn't be saying anything political. Now, I don't know who that was from or who had sent that or anything like that, but I was shown that letter. And it's like, why are you telling me what I can say in a field? It's not up to you. It's up to the people that are listening to me. If they don't like what I say, you know, like, for example, if I was to say something, for example, racist, which I wouldn't do, because that goes against everything in my body, but I wouldn't even expect the person who's booked me to have a go at me about that. What I should be scared of, in terms of saying something racist, it shouldn't be breaking company protocol. It should be an audience turning on me, and you know, that's the sign of a good society. A sign of a good society is that it polices itself in that way, that you're not going to be someone who goes out to offend and hurt people based on protected characteristics and prejudice, because you would be a pariah in society. That's the way it should be policed. Not having, okay, Bob Dylan said something and now, you know, a load of people are kicking off on the Mail online. So now all of a sudden you're not allowed to say what you want to say. It's ridiculous. I mean, I still did say it. It doesn't matter if I say it, because no, you know, I haven't got the same eyes on me in any way whatsoever, you know, but it just becomes ridiculous. And then when I do say it, people in the audience applaud at Glastonbury. So it's like, you're trying to get me to not say that. They want me to hear that. I want to say that. But now I'm not allowed to say it because some people who aren't even here are annoyed about me highlighting an issue that a foreign power is nicking land, which we know is the case. It's like, it's not my opinion. It's factually, it's there and it's been there for decades. The whole thing, I feel like I'm going mental, basically. I feel like I'm going insane sometimes with all this.
Is there hope?
Is there hope? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there is. But I don't know which way to go with it. I don't know whether it's, because I think one of the big things that we need to kind of realize is that we're stronger in terms of community. Like, community has just disappeared completely. I mean, I live in a village. Let's say this village here has got, you know, let's say it's got 500 people in it. A lot of these people are poor, haven't got much money. But I was saying the other day, I was like, if we just rented out the village hall during the winter to ourselves, didn't even rent out, just took the village hall on. If you've got 500 people, if you've got 100 of them and they give you a tenner each, that means you've got every month, that means you've got £1,000 to cook for 100 people, which, if you do it right, can take you far further per person than that £10 would. Why aren't we having cooking clubs together? Why aren't we eating together? Why are we locked away in different places? Why aren't we doing any of this stuff? That's the stuff that matters. Because all of this, it needs to be, instead of trying to change how the power structure works, it needs to be changing reliance away from the power structures. You need to take reliance away from it. That's what I'm trying to do with my hour show. My hour show, for me, people are saying it's really early on. You know, you've only been going a few years, it's really early. It's because I don't want to have to partake in the weird little power structure you got on the circuits. I got in trouble because I highlighted with the victims, multiple victims say so, a man on the circuit who was known and could, you know, to have been doing stuff that was really bad to female comics and female audience members. The way he'd been treating people, the stuff he'd done, all the way up to assault and stuff. And there are certain people who wouldn't book me after that because I was seen as some sort of troublemaker. So I don't want to be involved in a circuit where if you highlight someone that's a danger to people, you're then seen as bad. So I think the whole thing is trying to get away from power structures. That's the way you can do it. That's the main way. The other way to do it is let the power structure eat itself. Because what we're seeing at the moment, it seems like it's working because you've got these people getting very, very wealthy. But I feel like we're basically in a race between the elites kind of collapsing in on themselves. I mean, you've currently now got Donald Trump not looking as confident as he did look because everyone's realized he's a paedophile, allegedly. And you've got, you know, like, things are starting to crumble. Elon Musk, he's starting to, you know, fall out of favor with Trump, and they're having bloody arguments. And, you know, they don't realize as well, these elites at the top, they don't realize that they need a healthy populace to be able to actually, there's no point being the richest man in the world if the world is, you know, a shit place to live. Like, you need to have a functioning society. So it's either they're going to completely collapse, or something completely unknown like AI and technological kind of advancements are going to make the world a very, very different place anyway. So,
do you think the public is apathetic, or is it just wary?
I think the public...
Or have they been desensitized?
I think a lot of them don't really know what's happening. They don't really know what's going on. You've got a lot of people who blame immigrants and immigration, foreigners and difference, people that are, different to them. You've got those that have done that, and that's been going on for years and years and years. No blacks, no dogs, no Irish, for example. It's just been going on for absolute years. No matter where you are in the world, there's always people that have
scapegoated
against, scapegoats. Like, that's the way of that happening. But I think as well, there's a lot of people who, one of the reasons I'm quite as political as I am is because I got a lot more free time, because I haven't got kids, I haven't got a dog even, I haven't got anything, which on one hand is a sad thing, but on the other hand does give me a lot of freedom. But it's I can't remember what his name was, but he was the campaign leader. I think he was one of the campaign leaders for Obama's first election. And then he moved over to, was it the Scottish Independence Movement or something, got hired by them. And he said, you've got 30 seconds to win an election. And it's the 30 seconds between when the news starts and people turn it off. Like, people just don't pay any attention to any of these things. So you have, people like Ed Miliband losing an election because of the way they eat a bacon sandwich. No one has any idea what Ed Miliband's policies were. I mean, he was fairly socialist as they went.
Yes.
And he had no chance at all because of how he ate a bacon sandwich. In the meantime, they're voting in Boris Johnson. And you see what happened there. No one talks about the fact that he's got, what was his name? The leader of the independent newspaper, who is now standing in the House of Lords as Lord of Siberia. He's in the House of Lords as Lord of Siberia, which is not part of the UK. His dad was proven to have been high up in the KGB, and he had parties in northern Italy, which Boris Johnson was invited to. When Boris Johnson first went there, he was pro-European. And then Boris Johnson was found without his security detail.
Yes.
As a far in an airport nearby, and all of a sudden he's changed his stance on Brexit and all that sort of stuff, and he's getting voted in without that being mentioned whatsoever, any of that sort of stuff, that we've got a compromised guy here now, instead of the other guy because he eats a bacon sandwich weird. So people are just being easily led. They give up to authority very easily. Another George Carlin quote, which I love, and I've got it on the top of my caravan. I've got just as much authority as the Pope, just less people who agree with me, which I absolutely love as a statement. And that's the thing. It's just because people agree with these people are seen, politics is seen as some weird, distant, unknown kind of thing, that is this complex thing that's too intellectual for a lot of the general public. But it's not true. You talk to someone who, on the surface, people would see as an idiot, just some kind of beer swilling, Magaluf going, I'm being stereotypical here, but you get that person. Talk to them, they'll be able to tell you every single left back Brentford have had since 1972, and to talk to you about all the weird little formations they play and what the score was when they went away to League Town in the FA Cup. And they know these things. They've got the ability to be able to remember vast amounts of knowledge, but it's just been separated away from people. People feel like politics is something that happens to them rather than them being a part of the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Like the same view they have of the universe and the environment, like the separation of this whole thing, without realizing they are the environment, they are the universe, and they are politics.
Do you think a lot of the reasons why the right is controlling is because they just use snappy sound bites and stir up emotions? More so, whereas on the left, we're critical thinkers, but it turns people off at the same time.
Yeah, it is, because the left requires you to do something. That's the thing. Okay. Like, there's an inherent laziness to accepting the right's answer to everything. There's an inherent laziness. If you look, for example, back into World War II and World War I, one of the most fascinating things that I had happen was when I was at university, there was I was living with an Irish guy, a Spanish woman, and someone from Eastern Europe. He was at Bulgaria or somewhere. And if you talk to them about how World War I started, they're all told different things. We were told Gavrilo Princip killed Franz Ferdinand. Everyone's told something different. When you actually look into it, you can see that it was an oil thing, for sure. Battle of Basra, 1914, 1918. So that was in Iraq. There was fighting for oil in Iraq because basically the big powers in the world at that point was Britain, and we had oil fields over in the North Sea and also in India, a part of the empire. America, which had the Texan oil fields, and Germany, which had no oil fields. So as everything was moving from coal to oil, Germany could see there was nothing going on. So there was big economic issues happening because of that. So they needed to completely change how their economy worked. They needed to change how they powered things, like, and how they moved forward. They had no means of doing that sort of thing. The only way they could do that is by joining into partnerships, which is where you have ideas like the EU and stuff coming from. You know, when things like coal to oil and stuff change. But the easier thing of, instead of saying that there was a lot of wealthy people at the top who haven't done their job properly and now they've got to backpedal and try and create a new economy, the easier thing to do from that is say the Jews have stolen all the money. The Jews are the ones that have done this to us. It's an easy, lazy way of doing things. And it's exactly the same as what's happening now. Exactly the same as what's happening now. We've got the world is on fire. Like, the scientists are screaming that everything's going wrong everywhere. We have politicians in charge that are obviously paid for by, or have been compromised by foreign. You know, we've got people who can't afford to go to get to school, people who can't afford food, and yet we're, you know, sending money and stuff over to Israel, like during a genocide against the express demands, not recommendations, demands of the International Criminal Court. Like, we're in such a shitty, horrible situation, but it's got to be the asylum seekers that are the problem, and everyone's completely misinformed on all of that. And no one uses logic either. Doug Stanhope, comedian's got a great bit about that as well. He said, if you're complaining that someone has stolen your job, they've come over to this country, they've got no shoes on, they've got no education, they can't speak the language. If they've stolen your job, you've got a shit job. That's the first thing you need to figure out here. If a guy can't speak the language, has got no qualifications, no experience, no networking, has gone up to your level straight away, and you're 52 or 53 years old, your real problem is that you've not push yourself forward in life, and that might not be your problem. That might not be your fault. You need to look around and be like, what struggles have I had to take part in? All these other these issues, these things that do hold people back. I have the same thing. You know, I'm approaching my 40s, and I live in a caravan. I haven't got anything, but I know what the issues are. I know the struggles that I've gone through. I know the struggles I've overcome. I'm going to blame someone else on it because of the colour of their skin or where they're born. I've got far more in common with a Syrian farmer than I have with a British billionaire. Far more in common.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How were you taken in your village, living in a caravan, etc.?
Oh, there's quite a few caravan people here. Yeah, there's quite a few, because I mean, there's an entire, so St Mirren, the village I'm not actually in St Mirren, but I'm near St Mirren. I think it's the second or third highest percentage of holiday homes in Cornwall, something like 58, 61% or something is holiday homes, so it just completely empties. But also because of that, that means that all of the people that have lived here, because these are holiday homes, they still live around here, some of them, but they live in a place called the Holiday Village, which is down the way, which is just a load of caravans. But because that's not a place where you can legally live all year, for 1 month of the year, they're not allowed to live there. So all of a sudden, people start sleeping on sofas and stuff. So one of the easier ways is just to live in to find a farmer's field and just kind of live in a field, kind of without people kind of knowing that you're there, apart from the farmer, just hidden away. Like, one of the funnest things to do around here is get onto the double-decker bus just after they've trimmed the hedges, because you can see over all the hedges and you can see, oh, there's people living there, there's people over here, there's people over there. There's a lot of that going on there, but it's more the political points of view, really. Like where I am at the moment, so there's like 6 or 7 of us at the moment on my field. That'll go down to just 2 of us in the winter. There's me, and there's a guy who's involved in mining lithium now. So he's actually a miner, Cornish miner, which is crazy. He used to be a cook locally. But we're the only 2 there. The rest of them are people that are doing like surf lessons and stuff like that. But everyone kind of keeps their mouth shut with all this stuff. I think a lot of that's down to, well, it's mainly down to ignorance. But again, I'm seen as some sort of troublemaker. Recently, people have started to be like, okay, maybe there's something in this. Because when I first came down here 8, 9 years ago, like I was saying all this stuff, and that, you know, as far as they were concerned, the world was still like semi-idyllic, but it's now starting to affect the middle classes and stuff. So,
well, that's when Brexit happened.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was called, yeah, exactly. That's when people start kicking off and people start noticing things are going badly. But yeah, it's an interesting kind of thing, and it's just a completely different way of life. I had a mate of mine down here, and he's a completely different person to me. I do like him as a person, but politically, like, that part of him can go in the bin. But he said to me once, we were walking, and he's like 24, 25, maybe a bit older now. But he said, Kev, big difference between you and me is that you don't believe in the American dream. And I said, that is one of the most mental things anyone's ever said to me. That is one of the most mental things anyone has ever said to me. So you think my problem is that I just don't believe hard enough that I can be, let's face it, president of the United States in terms of your reference, but let's move it to the president of the UK. Not a chance. The way that I was brought up, I couldn't even be the one in charge of the bloody, handing out the bloody orange juice in my classroom. Like I had no chance of anything like that in my upbringing. The only way I can do something is to try and get into power by utilizing the fact that I was born with nothing in a very working class area. And as soon as I try and get into power, I'm immediately seen as some sort of protest vote. Like, there's absolutely no way of me doing anything. But he can't see that. Now, he had a situation, bless his heart, where he actually fell out of a second-story building that was having some building work done while he was half asleep, and he hit his head and nearly died. He had a horrible thing. He's really well now, luckily. But his mum and dad, who are also really lovely people, they own a load of local businesses, and they allowed him to be able to, work in the pub and do this. And I'm really happy that he had that sort of upbringing. He had that ability where he's able to live somewhere. They were to give him like a caravan to live in. And they have worked hard to be able to achieve this. I'm not taking that away from him, but this is the situation that he's in, where he's able to do that. Had that happened to me, I would have had to have gone home and lived with my mum and dad. My mum's, basically, well, no, not basically, is disabled. Dad's retired. Like, there's no money or income really. There's money, there's bits coming in, but they can't help me out to that extent in any way whatsoever. I just think for some people, there's the idea that meritocracy works. People believe that we're told that meritocracy is the thing. The harder you work, the more you get paid, the more the life gives you. You put in what you get out, what you put in. But in that same mold, if we're taught that as a child and we think that about that question, that's where you get dislike and hatred of people that have got nothing. That's why it's easy to blame the homeless, blame drug addicts, blame asylum seekers, because they're getting what they deserve. For some reason, somehow they're getting what they deserve. I think it's a reason there's so much bad mental health at the moment. I'm not someone who enjoys feudalism or wants to go back to feudalism, but in feudalism, you were born within your social class, like the caste structure in India. And that's a bad thing, but at the very least at that point, if you end up with nothing at the age of 40 or 50, no one thinks that's because you haven't put the effort in. They think that's because that's what you are born into. So that takes that lifts that pressure off you. At the moment, the lie, the blanket lie of the fact that we're living in a meritocracy causes harm and pain to so many people, because we're seen as, if you have nothing, it's because that's deserved. And that's a feeling that I did get from a few people when I was around here. I just put a bit more effort in. You should just try a little bit harder. It's like, at that point, it's just like, I'm working with disabled kids, or I'm working with mental health for the homeless. Like, I'm getting told this by people whose parents own a golf course. Like, how's this even? Do you know what I mean? That's how I felt like I was judged. Now it's changed slightly differently, because now I'm a comedian. They're interested now. I have people that I remember one time sitting in a pub with my mates that I'd worked with. So I was, suicide worker for the homeless. We had a mental health nurse. We had a psychiatrist, a psychologist. We had all these people that around there, all from the same team, all having a drink. And at this point, I was part-time comedian, so I didn't used to work Fridays, because I'd go off and do comedy Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And this guy came in, a mate of mine, and he brought a friend in who hadn't met me. He was just like, mate, this is my friend, he's a comedian. And I'm sitting around the table thinking, between all of us, we've probably saved 20 people from killing themselves this year. But what this guy's impressed with is the dick jokes. Like, it's an interesting thing how all of a sudden I've now got worth.
My
worth has gone up. Yes. Yeah. Whereas beforehand, I do far less important stuff now than I used to do when I had that job. I'm seen as more important, which is very strange.
Bollocks, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's bollocks.
It's ridiculous.
Tell me, since we last recorded, how's your mental health been?
Bad, and then good, and then bad. I've been getting really stressed. I actually went into hospital 2 days before Glastonbury with a suspected heart attack. And that was just down to a lot of the stress that just being in this situation has caused me. Like, I can't do anything. I'm waiting for operations and stuff from the NHS and waiting to get help with my mental health and stuff. A lot of the stuff that's came from the car crash. You know, I've been diagnosed with PTSD from it and stuff like that. And a lot of the people everyone who surrounds me, all the people that know me can see just how much I've changed, how much my body's changed, my ability to be able to move, my vigor, everything's kind of changed. And I'm just stuck because I don't have the ability to be able to put the pressure on the other side at the moment. And it's like, I just need them to hurry up, and it kind of helped me out here. But I'm feeling a lot more.
Who do you turn to when you're struggling?
I message a few mates, but I don't ever really properly say. Like I sit down and I kind of try and figure it out for myself a lot of the time. But that's just because there's no answer to it. I don't know what people are going to say to me. Like the one big one was that for a long time I felt kind of unlovable. I felt like I couldn't kind of be with anyone. So I've stopped that now, and I've not fully got into dating, but I've started to think about that again now.
How does that feel?
It feels good, but the stupid thing about it is that as soon as it kind of that freedom came in, I immediately started writing about it, like jokes. Like, so I know but that's a good thing, because that means that I know that I'm taking it seriously if I've got jokes about it, you know. Like, it's really, I haven't been dating for a long while, but one thing I have noticed is that after a few years off, I've noticed that dating is actually a lot like riding a bike. It's really hard when you're fat. But I know that there's, you know, if I'm doing stuff like that, I'm like, right, that means I feel comfortable with it. So, that's an interesting kind of element to things.
Connections are important, though.
They are, but I was also feeling a weird way, like I'm kind of waiting to become this other person, not fully, but I know when I've had my operations, I mean, I've got bariatric surgery, I've got, possible, injections and stuff from my back. I've got knee surgery coming. I may have a payout coming out from this thing that's going to help me move forward with mental health and stuff and improve my living situation slightly. So I just feel like I don't want to kind of get involved with anyone to any proper level, because I feel like I don't know where I'm going to be and what I'm going to be doing. And
you want to arrive, as it were, before you can.
Yeah, I kind of want to go through the change a little bit. Like, I feel almost this is my experience, the closest I'll get, which is nothing like it, nothing at all like it, but the closest I'll get to kind of, some of my trans friends, they're like achieving their new identity. There's a lot that's obviously very different to that. Like, not going to have like face anywhere near the same level of things like prejudice and stuff. But I'm waiting to become this kind of other person in a way. And I feel like that's kind of holding me back in terms of connection.
Do you miss doing the homeless work and the suicide work?
I do, but at the same time, I just know at the moment I just couldn't. Like, there's no way I could do it. Like, I really want my back to work, because I can't even do like little hospitality jobs anywhere and stuff like that. Like, I know I wouldn't be able to do it, and I can't sleep at night and stuff like that. So I do miss that and that element of purpose with all of that. But I'm still involved in certain ways. I still help people in certain ways. I still try to. But I'm just kind of, I'm very much spent. I got really close to this one girl who I've been close to for a long time. And that kind of went out the window a little bit, because she started getting really, really, really involved in all the stuff with Gaza and with Sudan and stuff like that, which is great. And that's what people should be doing. But I felt a guilt because I wasn't doing it, and I couldn't support her with that, because I just haven't got it in me anymore at the moment. Like, I'm spent, like I'm just absolutely exhausted and being completely ground down by multinational companies because I happen to have been in the way of a drink driver as she plowed through traffic. Like, it's just put my life completely on hold. So I feel like in this crazy, weird kind of limbo at the moment where everything's kind of on pause. But at the same time, other things are, like, I got spotted in Exeter by this production company, a company that recently did a sitcom with Rosie Jones, got on to Channel 4, and they've asked me to write for them. So I'm writing a sitcom now for commission on Channel 4. I've got a renowned female comedian who's coming up the circuit, been like doing those stuff. She's asked me to be a writing partner with her. She wants me to write a sitcom with her for Radio 4. She's been talking to the head of comedy there about it. So there's a lot of good stuff going on with that. That's not in any way limbo. That's all moving forward. But without comedy, I think I'd just feel like completely like just in freeze frame.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So well, you know what? Compared to last year, you sound and it feels like you're in a much more better place.
I feel like I am mentally. Weirdly, physically, I've got worse. Like my body and everything's got worse. I've got constant tinnitus in my ear. But I've been proactive with stuff. Like things are getting better. I'm doing pub quizzes now.
Okay.
Which means I'm earning money locally. Yeah, I do I'm going all out. I've got the sparkly jacket. I've got curtains on the TV, red velvet curtains that I pull. Wheel of Fortune stuff going on. Like I'll go all out with it. But yeah, I'm still doing that on crutches. Just annoying.
Last time we were on, I asked you who's the most important person in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say now?
Kate Winslet's still up there, but no. I mean, it is me. I've got to look after me. But
where did you go then when I posed that question?
Last time, I think I said I didn't know. Like, there's various people and stuff. But the problem I feel with like looking after myself is I have to keep reminding myself to do it because I just feel like the world isn't doing it. Like it feels like I'm breaking a pattern looking after myself. Like I'm like today, like trying to hold back from messaging my solicitor again and being like, have we heard anything? I remember I got seen by my pain specialist, who was like the last expert to see, and he said, how's the process been for you? I said, if I'm going to talk completely honestly, and I know I need you on my side and all that sort of stuff, but you're being professional and, seeing it as on a level anyway, regardless of all of this. If you really want my thing, I'm just annoyed that everyone's making money out of me. Everyone's making money out of me. You have made money out of me. Solicitors have made money out of me. Insurance companies have made money out of me. Like absolutely everyone involved in this case has made money, and yet I'm sitting around, haven't got a penny from it yet, and everything's kind of broken. In a village where I'm kind of seen as some sort of novelty, like occasionally by some people, oh, he's weird. He wants to pay nurses more money, and someone who's kind of, like I feel like part of the reason I get a bit more kind of props now I'm a comedian is because there's a part of people where they're happy that I see myself as a clown. They realize, oh, maybe everything he's not serious, but everything he thinks, like I don't feel like I can be taken fully seriously by a lot of people. So it became quite hard to remind myself that I need to look after myself because I just don't feel it from other angles as well.
Thank you, Kev.
All good.
No, seriously, thank you. I'm glad that you've coming on the Hurt Locker.
Oh yeah, I like coming on.
From speaking your truth.
Yeah.
For letting people hear about what is going on.
Yeah. It's kind of all we've got, I feel. I remember my mate saying to me, like, like he said to me, like, if he could trust anyone's word, it'd be mine. I can trust what you say. And he's not a wealthy guy by any stretch, but he's from a family that didn't really have to worry about anything whatsoever. Like I think his dad's a solicitor or whatever. So he's not like mega rich, but he's they've done all right. I remember saying to him, the thing is, mate, like, what you've got to realize is when you haven't got now, like honesty is like
your
everything.
Currency.
It's everything, yeah. Like I will put on things. I was talking to other comedians. I'll put things up on my Instagram and stuff about. I'll be telling a joke on one of my little stories. Then the next second it will be about people who are starving in Gaza and stuff, or it'll be something like majorly political, highly opinionated. And I know that isn't the sort of stuff that gets me on telly. I know that's not the sort of stuff that's going to get me an agent. But it's way more valuable to me than any agent could be. Way more valuable to me than any TV could be. Because I know that when I go to sleep, when I lay my head down on that pillow, I've afforded that pillow through honest means. I've afforded everything that I've had through honest means. Like I haven't harmed anyone or turned a blind eye or allowed myself to be in any way complicit with any of this awfulness that's going on. And, good luck to people who don't turn a blind eye. Like I hope Grace Campbell has a lovely career. She won't do as much harm as her dad, but she doesn't necessarily, people like that, it really for me, it's like you've got to turn your back on these things. You can't be. Being complicit doesn't mean to say pressing the button. There's a lot of people like that wind me up. You know, that should be talking about stuff and they don't do it. Like, people have got a voice and aren't saying anything anywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think you've got to be able to say this stuff. You've got to. It's your job. It's what you're meant to do.
Kev Mud, thank you for being on The Hurt Locker. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Yeah.
The Hurt Locker is a safe space for our guests to openly share their mental health experiences. If you have been affected by any of the content in this recording, then please reach out for support. If it is an emergency, dial 999. If you would like to talk to somebody today, then please call the Samaritans on 116 123. Stay safe. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Hurt Locker. Please give us a rating or share with another listener. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Hurt Locker Pod.